Right. We'll move on to the Zone Committee's annual reports and quarterly updates. And we've got Paula Smith and Ara Pata Rubin and Alan Lim. Kia ora and welcome. Thanks for the help with the pumpkin, Alan.
Welcome. You did actually, yep. Yep.
You go first.
You haven't been told the weight though, have you? I think it was about 60.8, so you're about 10 kgs ahead of the next closest competitor. And I think, yes, and I think, yeah, and honestly, I don't actually know how you did it because you got your seedling a whole month later than everyone else.
It was the Otaiparo community orchard that did all the hard work. I just planted it.
Yeah, well done anyway, so congratulations. And I don't know how the first one exploded either, you know. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, he was nowhere near yours, so he was. Yeah. I didn't even weigh his because it was so small. So. Yeah. But look, so it's been a big year for Selwyn Waihoura's Zone Committee. Of course, you know, early in the year, the Selwyn River went dry, and following about 2.5 years of dry winters, so they had very little recharge. So the lead on from that was that we ran a series of seminars at Lincoln University covering 7 topics. There was a seminar at lunchtime and in the evening. We had about 70 to 130 people attending each time. So the intent was actually to let the community know what we've actually done in the water management space in the zone. And that was very, very well received. And I think the pumpkin project probably was born out of that because we thought that we didn't actually reach enough people still. The next highlight is actually that there's been 95% of the 356 priority farms that have taken actions required for their farm. So it's all going well there in terms of kind of consenting. The other highlight for the year was that nearly 2.7 million of the government's money, the Freshwater Improvement Fund, was allocated to projects in our zone. And one of them was actually directly to address the water shortage in the Selwyn River. So from the CPW Stage 2 pipe that runs across under the river, we'd taken a bit of water from there, we're putting an off-take in there to recharge the basin, if you like, so that it won't run dry again. And we'll be taking water from there, you know, in the off-season when the farmers aren't using it for irrigation. And of course, you know, our zone is probably one of a few that have actually managed to spend all our immediate steps money in the what, 100,000 in last year. So we basically spent 100,000 every single year in the last so many years now. And other zones are here struggling to spend theirs. That's about all from me. If you've got any questions that you want to ask.
Sorry about that, I was just sidetracking onto the Banks Peninsula Zone Committee request, so we're getting some wording together that will that we can resolve that. Does anyone have any questions for Alan? Glenn?
Thank you for this, and I just need to be careful not to make generalisations, but you just said before, so it won't run dry again, the Selwyn River. So you're seeking to, give effect to recharge when farmers aren't using it again. So during the...
So CPW water, I guess they're taking that water from the Rukai River and they only use it to irrigate their land in the summer months. So if there was going to be a dry winter, if we know that there hasn't been enough recharge during that period, we can put water into the ground to essentially kind of keep the bathtub full, if you like, because there's just a huge amount of water underneath the plains,
Right.
and if there hasn't been recharged here for a few years in a row, that kind of thing, then the river's going to run dry again. With this project, we can keep the bathtub topped up, and so whenever there's any kind of more water, it'll just come out in the rivers and springs in the lower plains.
Yeah, we know the farming sector's feeling picked on, so I just wanted to make sure, are we making too great a leap to say it's due to some aspect of farming such as irrigation?
It's due to both.
Okay.
So due to extraction, by the farmers, and it's also due to the lack of recharge.
Okay.
So in the typical year, you might get about 25 cubics of recharge, and the farmers will take part of that, and part of it kind of goes down the river and out to sea.
Yeah. Do you know how much of that 25 they take?
I'm not sure exactly, but it'll probably be in the vicinity of 10, maybe 15.
Okay, 10 of the recharge, so over half.
Yeah, don't quote me on that one.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Good. Oh, David, sorry.
Yeah, just a comment I'd like to make to the meeting today. So I actually attended the Central Plains Water annual meeting last year, and they have, as a consequence of the finishing stages of that project, a number of bores that were extracting up to 1 million cubic litres of water have now been discontinued. So we are moving towards a more sustainable use of water in that area, I believe. Does that sort of complement?
Yeah, that's correct. That's the intent of the CPW scheme, is to retire some of that groundwater so that more can stay in the ground.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to raise the Central Plains water, but I'm not allowing that comment to go unchallenged. Could you explain to me, please, the additional water irrigation from Central Plains water? I'm assuming that makes dairy farming in that area more economically viable.
I think it gives them more certainty.
Mm.
Yeah, so I don't know about the viability part of it, not onto those figures.
And what about, does your board, or is it just the West Melton one, deal with the leaching of nitrates under the Waimak? I know it's in the West Melton one, but your board doesn't touch on that at all?
No.
Right, okay.
Anne?
Yep, just I want to thank you, Alan, and all the committee for the amazing work that you do out there. I think you've got fantastic engagement with the community. It's a very difficult issue often. I particularly enjoyed the other day hearing about the people that are working with the farmers from Fonterra to raise their standards of practice. Have you got 2 or 3 points that you could make in terms of the improvement that's being seen in the practice of some of the dairying farmers?
Yes, that's happening all the time. I guess there's been quite a bit of talk about moving farmers to different farming systems and so on, but it's got to be led with research. You can't expect a farmer to kind of make changes unless they know what those changes are effective, and so I guess they won't leap into it unless it's proven. So there's actually a whole lot of research being done, not just in dairy but in all sectors, and a lot of improvement has already been made, and farming systems are changing. And it hasn't actually been that long since this issue in some ways.
Would it be appropriate for you to include in your next report some of the things that we learnt about from the Fonterra people that are working with the farmers?
Yeah, so we did actually ask for the information as well. They haven't actually got all the details yet either. Things are just moving very, very quickly. So we will be looking for those kind of numbers. We're interested in it ourselves. And so if there's interest here, I'll try to bring some of those numbers back for the next report.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Now, I'm not sure which committee would like to report next. Christchurch West Melton?
After you, sir.
Good morning, my name's Lance Kenyon. I'm filling in for Arapara. He sends his apologies.
Thank you.
I'm a community member on the Christchurch West Melton Zone Committee. Our annual report, I had done a little spiel, but unfortunately I'm struggling with glasses, so let's see again. You will be aware of the phrase he tangata, he tangata, he tangata. And one of the things for our zone committee is that is a crucial part of what we've been trying to achieve in 2017 and going forward as well. There's a lot of good work being done, as you can see in our report, and we are like Selwyn have also spent all of our allocated funds for the immediate steps. One of those was the whole this year just finishing. We spent it all, allocated it all to the Port Hills recovery up on Worsley Spur to assist with plantings and putting in some pest control fencing because it's an unprecedented event obviously, and if we can get an opportunity to put a lot of biodiversity back into the area and help stop the louse coming down into the Hekara Pāwaho, we thought that that was a great way to be involved. We hope that that can be taken further. You'll see also in the report there is another initiative that we have been involved with, which was started by one of our committee members, which is around the copper brake pad issue and raising the awareness of how much copper is going into the stormwater system. And I understand that the Mayor and the ECAN Chairman are looking at putting a letter to the Minister of the Environment regarding the copper brakes issue. We have also designed a postcard that is going to be passed out that sort of highlights that issue to the community as well, so that they can be aware there is an alternative to the current brake pads. So that's ongoing. I know that the Waimakariri was raised. Our groundwater subgroup has been instrumental in identifying the groundwater protection area and making sure what's shown on the maps is actually what is being done. They did a lot of great work, and it is our intention this month to hold a workshop around the Waimakariri, and I understand that yourselves and ECAN are getting some updates tomorrow. We are getting our one in 2 weeks as well, and some of our zone committee members attended the Waimakariri's workshop last month as well, so they've got a little bit more information. So we're still waiting to get some more details. Biodiversity is something else that's important to our zone committee, and we, as I said, we allocated the whole 100,000 to the Port Hills this financial year just finishing, and also gave a number of other fundings to things such as the Mount Vernon up by the rock wall there, going up onto Mount Vernon track. We are very keen to see some more involvement around riparian plantings, particularly in the tributaries coming off the Port Hills, because again, we're looking at something perhaps in the future as a catchment-wide initiative that we'd like to get some involvement, such as the red zone areas up on the Port Hills. Perhaps there's an opportunity there to reduce some of that sediment coming down into the river. And I understand that the Million Trees Fund criteria is coming out in July, and obviously our zone committee would like to be involved in that once it is known. Lastly, our committee's had 3 refreshes, and Andrew Congleton and Chris Kelleher have stood down, and they did some amazing work, and Andrew continues to support our group, so I'd just like to publicly acknowledge them in this forum. Thank you for your support on our zone committee. We really do appreciate it, and anything you can do to help with the waterways, our water quality of course, and anything to do with biodiversity, which you'll know about the Inaka scheme from last year, we would like to continue. And I'll ask Pauline if she's got anything to add.
Pauline.
Oh no, just I think the committee's just getting stronger and better. Actually, it's got good cohesion, good facilitation as well. But I was actually going to, and I think it's a really good good update here showing the what we have achieved over the last year. But I was going to ask a question about the Waimakariri wells. And on page 63, councillors, you'll see that's just noted there in a small paragraph, but it does say that modelling has indicated that nitrates may find their way into deep groundwater, but I think the modelling showed that it is present, is that correct? Or the testing has showed that there is a very small amount.
Yeah, Lance identified himself as a community member of the zone committee, so
yeah,
I'm assuming we're getting some technical support now.
Yes.
Not so much technical support, but certainly they did indicate that there could possibly be some nitrates coming into some of the deeper aquifers, and I think that you've had a briefing about the modelling showed that we thought it was kind of like a rabbit-proof fence, and we weren't sure how deep that rabbit-proof fence, which is the Waimakariri River, went down. Modelling shows that could possibly have gone under. Those test wells showed that yes, there was possibly some indication that could be the case.
Because I think the key thing here is the word deep aquifers, because previously, well, as you know, we've upgraded our deep bore program in the northwest there, thinking that we would be safe by turning off our shallow bores, but this is actually a considerable concern, and the Zone Committee is taking this very seriously, and I'm just wondering, Leslie, if you could expand on the steps we're taking to work with Waimakariri Zone Committee in order to address this.
Yes, certainly. So there was a technical briefing last month on this, so it was an opportunity for both zone committees to kick the science and kick the economics. We also have our chair, Arapata, who is also on the Waimakariri Zone Committee as the Ngāi Tuahariri representative. In terms of what the options are, that's still very much in discussion around how do we deal with this particular issue. The technical work that has been going on since you last received a briefing was on those test wells, and also identifying, kind of delineating where the actual source area was going to be. So that next step is about, now that we know this particular area and the issues, what are the options, what are we going to do about it? So that's the conversation that you'll be getting a briefing, I understand, with councillor to councillor, conversations tomorrow as well.
And I guess the further question there is, how much can the zone committees do about this? We can only recommend to the regional council to perhaps
Yes, I think it would be useful for just a quick explanation, because I think, although this has obviously been in the public arena for some time, we don't want people to misunderstand what the roles and responsibilities are. So perhaps if you just speak to the role of the regional council, ECAN, and then how the zone committee feeds into that process.
So the role of the Environment Canterbury is a regulator. So at the moment it is developing its provisions for the Waimakariri zone that actually will set the direction of travel for those landowners in terms of what they can discharge. So it'll be setting the nitrate limits. The role of the two zone committees, Waimakariri and Christchurch West Melton, have a role in talking to the communities and providing some recommendations. So they set the kind of direction of travel, and they'll also be setting some recommendations about timeframes. So how quickly can we actually move move landowners to reducing their nitrates coming in. So that's where the discussions are at the moment between both of the zone committees and also Environment Canterbury are waiting for those recommendations.
Now, obviously, we're talking about an area of land that's not in our catchment, but the impact potentially, if it's there, is on our catchment in terms of the deep aquifers. So, in making a determination in that regard, how much weight is given to the impact on the neighbouring? I mean, I know that the ECAN looks at a region, but look, people are not going to understand the fact that one's on one side of the boundary in terms of land use that's allowed under a district plan that we have no say over, as compared to our side where we do, well, not entirely, but have some say over.
We used to. Once, in the olden days.
Absolutely, and that will obviously be, the final decisions will be with Environment Canterbury, and that's what they want to start talking to you about, as I understand, at governance level tomorrow.
Thank you very much for your report and all the work the Zone Committee do. You referred, Lance, I think you referred to the plantings on Worsley Spur too, and that's a great example of the work that your committee support and do. What I wanted to ask you about in relation to Worsley Spur was the whole issue of runoff and soil runoff that you've referred to. I've just got some concern that the developments that are residential developments that are currently progressing and will have mitigation required. I'm just wondering, in your view, if there is sufficient mitigation around those recent developments on Worsley Spur, in your view.
I don't know all the specifics, but when we did do when they approached us regarding putting in funding to the project, there is down at the base of Worsley Spur, which then feeds into the Cashmere stream, there is a tributary there that my understanding is part of the subdivision and the work that's going on, that flat area there.
Yep.
They're going to recontour that, what used to be a stream. It's going to have plantings. I understand in future development, they're also going to make the track go up the side in the gully there, and that they're going to make sure that there is sediment controls in the natural way to stop a lot of that stuff coming down. Good. So I know that it's been discussed. I just don't know the specifics.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Lance.
So Vicky.
Just in terms of the Waimakariri Wells project, because the report was excellent, but this paragraph just jumped out at me, and I agree with you completely that we thought this was a rabbit-proof fence, but it's not a nitrate-proof fence, it seems. And obviously the deep aquifers are one of our 3 pillars upon which we rest our secure drinking water status, and we never want to face an issue with them. So I'm just, you talked about, you know now the source area of the contamination.
That is my understanding, is that
right.
They've been able to delineate that.
Right, and we know the nitrates are coming under the Waimak. Mm-hmm. Just how quickly could ECAN act on this in terms of the powers that they have?
They will be able to act on it through the planning process. So we are expecting to have an operative plan. My understanding will be late or notified mid-next year. So, and then how long that becomes operative, as you understand, planning processes do take some time.
So is there no other power that ECAN has or the drinking water assessor has that could mitigate this way more quickly than that process?
Could it be referred up to the what's the process under the RMA that brings it to what is it, the EPA, is it?
There is a process at the moment called Plan Change 5 that's already quite a long way through the planning process. It's under appeal at the moment. That brings in good management practice across the region. So that is actually already driving some of the land use change that needs to happen, and it's also driving some of the farmers to apply to Environment Canterbury for consents to farm, and also farm environment plans. So some of those landowners will be caught by that.
Is there any possibility of any faster action under something like, I don't know, Regeneration Act or the Environmental Protection Agency?
I can't answer that specifically, but I'll get some advice so you can discuss that tomorrow with the councillors.
Do you mean farm environment?
Farm environment plans, and there's about 3,000 now across the region, so there will be some in Waimakariri that have them as well.
That's great. Look, thank you very much, and for a very detailed report, it's excellent. Thank you. The last one is the Banks Peninsula Zone Committee.
Tēnā koutou katoa.
Kia ora.
And happy birthday, Your Worship.
Oh, thank you.
This is our annual report. It's so long ago I've lost interest in it, so unless you've got questions, I'll skip straight on to what's been going on with the Zone Committee in the last 2 or 3 months. The hot topic since the Waiki debris flow at Teddington has been the future of forestry on Banks Peninsula, and at all our last 2 or 3 meetings we've discussed that in one form or another. And at the last meeting we had a briefing about the new national environmental standard for plantation forestry, NESPL, and which it turns out is quite a permissive document, and we're a bit concerned that Banks Peninsula is zoned green. That means that forestry activities do not, that's a permitted act, forestry is a permitted activity on Banks Peninsula. So we've been trying to catch up with what the existing rules are in the district plan and in the regional plan, and what we're I think the feeling of the Zone Committee is that that assessment of being a green and a yellow zone is probably not quite right. That may be, so we'd like to understand better how that was reached. We understand it's based on topography and rock, but I'm not sure how much soils, the effect of the soils was, and this would be an issue in both these other zones too, who have the same lowest soil type, which is very frangible. So what we are asking is that the planners from Christchurch City Council and the planners from Environment Canterbury work closely on amendments to our various statutory instruments to ensure that the revision of the planning rules for forestry is fit for purpose for Banks Peninsula, and will ensure that water quality will be maintained and enhanced.
I've just put this up here, but I was going to suggest something else, but we can't. Excuse me. So just note, I was actually going to, sort of agree that council's planning staff work closely, excuse me, with Environment Canterbury's planning staff to amend plans if necessary to ensure alignment of plantation forestry rules for Banks Peninsula with the National Environment Statement for Plantation Forestry, which came into effect on 1 May 2018. So
that's what we'd like.
Just a noting provision.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just highlighting the issue.
Yep.
And just.
Well, we could simply take out note the Banks Peninsula Zone Committee, just put request that the council's planning staff work closely with Environment Canterbury.
I like that.
Yeah.
They did agree to it on the night, so we're just
and
reinforcing
actually,
it.
In a very significant event, a card was passed from a planning staff member to another planning staff member.
Right. From across council boundaries.
Yes, between the two councils.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fantastic news. No, sorry, somebody had their hand up. Yanni.
Thank you. Just in terms of previously, you've raised concern with stock being able to be on council land accessing the waterways.
That's right, yes.
Is there any update on that?
Not that I'm aware of. I know that staff have been working on it because someone contacted me recently, a couple of months ago to say who was working on it. asked me who it was, and I referred them to Paul Devlin, but I don't know, haven't heard anything since.
I don't know quite how we're tracking that. I think we've had a formal resolution previously. It might be quite good just to, I don't know, note in the reports.
So what is the issue?
The issue is that on a whole bunch of our land, well, I don't know how much, but in certain places where we lease land to farmers, we don't have effective stock control, so the stock are able to end up in the waterways.
Yeah, but what's the issue that we're asking staff to report back on?
Well, what progress is made on that issue?
It's particularly an issue in Akuti Valley where there's a community group that's working to improve water quality there, and they see the stock on the Esplanade Reserve. There's no fence between the private land and the council's Esplanade Reserve, and they're getting into the creek.
Okay. Yeah,
but there are other places.
I'd like some words, so if somebody could just write some words down, that would be great. Andrew?
Yeah, so just on that one, I mean, it might just be as simple as requesting an update from staff on what progress has been made on the matters raised regarding stock having the ability to enter the waterway at Akuti Valley.
Okay.
Well, actually, it's more than Akuti Valley. There are a number of these Esplanade Reserves over Banks Peninsula, and I suspect it's happening in other places too.
So maybe we just take out the words at Akuti Valley. I mean,
yeah, regarding
is the example, and I'm aware that Paul Devlin was doing some work on that, and I'm just as keen as Yanni, and probably just as keen as the Zone Committee, to know where that has progressed to.
But could we just do it through the next Chief Executive's report? Is that okay? So, request update from staff regarding stock entering what?
Waterways. From council-owned land.
From council-owned land. Is it only happening in Banks Peninsula?
I
that
know
was raised. An issue that was raised by the Banks Peninsula Zone Committee.
That's right.
All right. And then at the next in the next CE report. Well, no, if it's been raised in public, we might as well report it in public. It's just easier that way. Andrew.
Paula, hi, and thanks for the report. The section of the Zone Committee report, reducing sediment from roads, and I mean this is something that again has been talked about for a long time. The trial which is described in the Zone Committee report, to what extent is that joined up with priority actions 1.2 and 1.3 in the Whakaora Whole of Harbour Catchment Management Plan? Because I noticed in particular that priority action 1.3 in the Catchment Management Plan is support, promote and implement the learnings from an erosion and sediment control pilot project on Littleton Harbour Basin roadside cuttings. So I would hope that this is joined up, because it looks like two very similar work streams, and if it's not, then we need to make sure it is, I think.
I think that reference in the Whakaora plan is actually a reference to that particular project.
So it's
the
the
roadside
same
cutting project that the ECAN staff are coordinating.
Excellent.
Yes, and the learnings from that will help inform anybody dealing with lower soils on roadside cuttings, hopefully. But I mean, that's only a tiny fraction of the sediment source. And as I drove in today, every one of our hundreds of streams on Banks Peninsula is flowing brown, as are the ones on the Kashmir side and round, coming off all these lower soils.
Yeah, and of course you look
tons
at
of
the
sediment
harbour.
is pouring into the harbours and Long Bays.
Yeah, you look at the harbour on a day like today, and you
I
can
know.
see where all of those streams empty into the harbour by the whole brown murk that's out there.
But anyway, that was one place where was highly visible that we thought we could make a start, and hopefully when this project finally happens, seems to be taking a long time, we might learn something that we can use. Yeah.
Kia ora. Well, thank you very much. And would someone like to move that we receive the information, that we request the second one and request the third one as well? So Andrew, seconded by Phil. I'll put that motion. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.